my name's Simon Chatfield. I'm here with Kyle Bles, and today we're going to show you how quickly it is that we can set up a brand new application for one of our customers from scratch, so they can start getting use out of the platform from hour one, day one, etc. So Kyle's coming to us with a new customer that we're onboarding, and we're just going to put a quick platform together, instance together for them. So Kyle, why don't you tell us a little bit about the client we're bringing on?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a property management company that has asked to be able to consolidate all of their properties in one place. No more using the Excel spreadsheets to kind of go and put a tab on and add to the list of the last time that something went wrong with the AC or the refrigerator, yada yada. They want to be able to build into the system the tracking capabilities for all of the contractors that they trust to work on the building, all the way through to the warranties that are associated with the work that's been done in a document storage area. Obviously, with Excel that they're currently using today, they can only see the data that they throw in, and then they actually have someone that has the files that if they have a warranty issue, they have to go run out to the outside of the office and grab the files themselves, scan them in, and send them over.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of just getting it all,
So this is a company that owns property, or they work for their customers or the owners, and they're just the managers of the property?
They work for the customers.
Okay, so they're a property management company,
Exactly.
Basically tried and true. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to manage their property, manage the key components, the roof, the appliances, understand what's in each of the properties that they're managing, so they can identify maintenance records, schedules. Maybe a tenant calls in and says they need some repair done, and they'd want a list of vendors that they can call up that's in that area. That can service it, and then they want to track that servicing and all that kind of fun stuff.
Exactly. Trying to make it a little bit easier on that side of the kind of taking care of the customer, as well as being able to track everything that's tied to that.
Okay. So I'm kind of seeing 4 data sets that we're going to need for this solution. One is going to be the property, obviously. So we're going to have that's going to hold the list of properties that this company's managing. Another one would be naturally the vendors. So all the vendors they use to service either the roofs or the AC units or the pool pumps, etc. We're going to want to have the maintenance record. So we're going to want to know what's happened to that specific component, that appliance, etc. And let's get the ability to open up a ticket. Maybe a phone call comes in, and Optum can actually make the or answer the phone and do all kind of fun stuff. We're not going to get into that today, but this will be kind of a utility or tool that they call up to a human answering, and the human puts the ticket into the system.
Yeah, I think that's
great.
We
kind of walk through that process.
Yeah, I think in the 30-40 minutes that we have today, that sounds like a great start to start showing the functionality.
All right, let's jump in.
All right.
Okay, so on my screen, I just logged into the portal side. So Optimum is split into 2 sections. We have the portal, and we have the workflow and data set management side. So stock portal, obviously there's nothing here. We did set the company. We've got a little home icon in here. And we have portal management that we will be using today to kind of outline some segments and some other stuff to see what we want the users to visually see. When we start, we're going to get started on the workflow side. So we have this property demo workflows. Obviously, we have no workflows in here today, but we're going to jump in on the data sets. So I mentioned 4 data sets. So we're going to go ahead and start creating those. I click the Create Data Set button, and we're going to create the property. Okay, so every time we create a data set, it automatically generates at least 4 columns that we find useful. So you can think of this as columns in a spreadsheet or columns in a database or things like that. So we have an ID column, a create date column, an update column, and a status column. And then we have any number of fields and what the data types are that we're creating.
Now, talking about the columns, how many columns can you have associated with this data set?
There's no limitation to number of columns. Just from a rule of thumb, you don't want to have thousands and thousands of columns. That would be difficult to manage. A good kind of thing is maybe 30, 40 columns would be ideal. But there's sometimes instances that require 100 plus columns, and sometimes these are data sets that are being exported from other systems, or maybe it's a file format that gets incorporated, and they're I've seen ones as high as 300 some columns.
Wow. And now they aren't showing all those, right? You could pick and choose kind of which
Yeah,
ones you
yeah.
see.
So this is the underlying data set. It's going to hold more information than that the users are actually going to be interacting with.
Okay.
But it'll hold ID fields and reference fields and history. So you have the ability to drill into stuff, even though you might not need to in your day-to-day. So you just want to put that information in front of them. So I'm going to go ahead and create some standard fields here. So I'm going to have a name. So let's have a name for the property. And we can identify the different data types. So the length of a string, so that's like character data, alphanumeric. So we'll give them 128 characters for that. Let's put the owner in here. And let's also, for today, we'll just put that as an owner's name. We might create an owner's data set sometime in the future, as well as a tenant data set. But for now, we're just going to put the name in there because we're just trying to get things moving.
Okay.
And let's put the street address. And let's put the, so these are homes, so we're not going to worry about suites or anything like that. So of course the city, I'll add a few in here. The state. And the zip code, because this is a US company. What other kind of information do we want to know about the property? Maybe who the tenant is. Let's see. Tenant. My spelling is atrocious. Let's see, and let's do a log. So let's do a log that basically holds all the information that's ever happened to this. Kind of a notes field that folks can just add stuff into. That's probably enough to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and that's going to update my data set. And now you see I've got all of these new columns available to me. So now I've got this data set. What do I do with it? So if I go back over my data sets, you see I've got my property data set in here. So I can click this plus tab. So that's going to do is I want to create a workflow that works on this data set. This specific one, we're going to be basically managing the property. So the basic property information. So
this is, in essence, starting to add a little bit of functionality to that data set that you just built.
Not so much functionality. It's going to be this workflow is going to be used to update the tenant information or the owner or set the address. So to create a new record or to update it.
Okay.
The functionality is going to come into play when we open a ticket. So
Gotcha.
a tenant calls in, and now we're going to generate a ticket data set. So right now we're going to create. We'll just call this the manage property. As you can see, most of the stuff you could leave in the default status. So we'll just leave this as a property. And maybe I want to close the panel once I'm done. So I'm going to put that as close panel there. And we also have what roles are allowed to access the things and whatnot. We're not going to deal with it so much for this demo, but you can have the ability to have certain workflows available to certain roles in the system and not others, as well as pages and all that kind of fun stuff as well. Nice. So we're going to go ahead and generate this manage property workflow. And now we're on the manage property workflow screen. So I'm going to add a step. What we typically do is we'll create a data set step. And this is just going to be the raw container for the data set that we're working on. Mm-hmm. So that's a step type of sample, and we're going to be updating it, but we don't want the raw stuff to display. But you see down here in the rows, you'll see all the rows that we just created in that data set. So now we've got a data set step, and this is a special kind of step. So we can actually hit generate form fields, and it'll automatically generate all of the fields associated with that specific data record. Nice. You'll see the ones that we have here, so we don't really need to bother with the ID and the create date and update. We don't want those to display, so I'm going to go and deactivate those. And the status, let's go ahead and let's change this step. So this is a text step. We're going to change this step to a drop down. So we're going to take it from a text input to a single response, because we want to give them the ability to have a drop down, so not everybody's just typing in, oh, this is occupied or what exactly. Okay, so this is going to have a certain amount of answers with that step available. Correct. Okay. Yep. Yeah. So this can be a drop down. Click the options. We can click quick add, and we're going to say this can be. Let's make it occupied. Or open, or let's see.
For rent or open, I guess.
Open would be for rent. Maybe it's they probably want to maintain the history if they no longer use that property, but we'll just put in a canceled status. So it could be occupied, open, or canceled. And you see that's created this, and I can save those changes. I'm going to go ahead and put property status in here, or property status. So what I'm typing in here is what the user is going to see, and then they're going to see a drop down. Okay. And we see the name of this property. So let's just say name of property. Quick reference. So in any kind of business, they typically have their own nomenclature and whatnot. So oh, that's the Mulberry House or something like that. So let's just give them a quick way to identify that. These other ones can really just be text entries, except for the log. Let's go ahead and disable the log for right now. Actually, we'll leave it in. They could just type in their notes, general freeform. And I think that should be, let's make that a WYSIWYG so they can actually do some more fun stuff. And let's call it notes, because I think that might make more sense.
So what does WYSIWYG stand for again?
What you see is what you get.
Now,
very, very clever.
So is that as you're freehanding text in or anything behind the scenes, it's actually, if you drop a photo in, and then is it putting it in HTML then?
Correct.
At that point?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. So now this one is done. So now you'll see I've got my current version of this. So I've made 33 updates since the last time this was published. So we're going to go ahead and do this, and we're going to, actually maybe before, well, we'll go ahead and do this. So we'll hit save. So now it's published. So now I actually have this available to me over on the portal side. So now if I refresh this, you'll see nothing's changed here. But if I go into portal management and let's create a page. So let's create a page, and we'll just call it properties. And let's make it live. I've got multiple page types, so we'll make this something available on the dashboard navigation, so it'll automatically be put on the top side here. Page contents, and we're going to want to have the ability to add a new property. So you'll see I've got my manage property in here, and we'll call it create. Let's call it add property. And let's make it orange. You like orange?
I love orange.
All right, orange it is. So now I've got my add property button in here. Scrolling down, we see who has available. So companies can have any number of user types or user roles. We give them 3 to start them out. Mm-hmm. We'll give it available to admins because we're really just testing this out right now.
Okay, so a user type. Explain that a little bit to me. Is that saying that you want to have certain pages available for only certain people to see, or for everyone to see?
Yeah, exactly. So there's different roles in a company. You've got your administrative staff, your operational staff. Maybe this company has the maintenance crews in-house. So they'd have a different role within the company. So let's say the maintenance crews would log in. They would have their own set of pages, their own set of workflows that they could interact with.
Gotcha.
And in reality, most of them would only be interacting on the portal side. They don't need to worry about building new workflows or building new data sets. They're just trying to get their job done in the business.
Absolutely. Okay, that makes sense.
So we're going to make this just a list because it's going to be a list of all our properties. We're going to have it on top of the manage property workflow. And let's not worry about that for now, but let's go into, so the list parameters, we can filter stuff out. So we only see what we want to see. So we're going to go into the action here. We're going to say update property is going to be an action, what we call the wrench actions. And it is going to be we're going to have it restart workflow 4946. So where did I get 4946? So just up here, we see that we're talking about workflow 4946. You can see it here, or if we click back over here, we can see that we're going to be talking about workflow 4946. So I'm going to go have this. So I'm going to have an action that says if I want to update this, I'm going to restart workflow 4946. So you remember all the columns we created when we first did the data set, Kyle. So what we're going to do over here is we're going to see these, everything we have here. We're going to display the name, Let's display the owner. Let's display the tenant, and probably the city and state too. That would probably be important, huh? So the city, state, owner, tenant, and the status. So that would be important. So the name, the status, city, state. So those are the columns we're interested in seeing. So you remember how you asked earlier about whether you have to see every column just because you've created in the data set. We don't need to. Really.
Okay.
It's really just stuff behind the scenes.
Be capturing that data behind the scenes still, even if it's not in the selected columns?
Correct. Yep.
So then, in theory, if one day they need to see the zip code or something, it'll all be there and they can throw it up onto the main page.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So we're going to go ahead and save that. And now we've got this version over here. So one thing, if you're keen-eyed, you notice that the properties page just popped into the dashboard navigation. Mm-hmm. So if we click over here, we see we've got our properties page in the system, and there's no data. Obviously, we haven't actually run a workflow.
I like that orange button.
Okay, so I click the Add Property button. And so remember how we created that drop down? You say the first thing turned into a drop down, and it's got these available options for us. So we're going to say it's occupied. And we're gonna make this your house, Kyle. So this can be Kyle's house.
Kyle's mansion.
Mansion. Ooh, I like what you think.
Actually, Kyle's shanty is more appropriate.
I'm gonna leave mansion.
Yeah. Sure.
And I'm gonna say I.
Yeah. That's more like it.
It's definitely a mansion. I'm not sure if I want any shanties. 123 Test Ave.
It's a nice part of town.
You're over in Arizona. Where in Arizona are you?
Mesa, Arizona.
All right, good old Mesa. AZ. And this could also be a drop down for states and whatnot. Obviously, I didn't want to exaggerate too much on the demo, and we'll put you in some something over here, and we'll put you in here as the tenant as well. Kyle is a great tenant, but he thinks my mansion is a shanty. All right. So now you see we have Kyle's mansion, status occupied. We have all that information in here. And of course I can hit the update property and we see all that information that we had originally typed in. Cool. So now we've got the base system, right? So now you've got your ability to have your properties database and the ability to update them and whatnot. So next on the list is we want to go ahead and create the vendors. So let's go ahead and create vendors.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to go back over to the data set. We're going to hit new data set. Vendor. And we've got those 4 fields again. So let's go ahead and add a few things. So let's have the vendor's name. Let's see. Type. So vendors are going to have types. So there could be a roofer or maintenance repair or something like that. Mm-hmm. Let's put some dates in here. So date, active, and let's have a not a status, but
a rating maybe.
Yeah, rating. I like it. And what else do we want to have? Anything else we want to have for vendors?
City.
Yeah. Let's get
territory.
Yeah, territory. That's good. Okay, so let's go ahead and make that bigger. We're going to take the name and the type. So I've seen some really long vendor names. Type should be fine. Date, obviously we want to do that here. Rating can be, let's see, you want to do maybe a number rating?
Yeah.
Okay. And the territory, and hey, let's add some notes on this one as well. I could definitely see them wanting notes. All right, go ahead and save that. All right, so now we've got all our fields there. So let's go in and add a workflow for it. So we're going to follow the same type of process. And you'll see this time I've got the vendor, so I've got all the vendor data columns here, or data rows, or columns, rows of information. Yeah, on the workflow side, really reflects back to columns on the data set side.
Gotcha.
Okay. And let's go ahead and do our fun generate form field, so we don't need to go in one by one. And again, we don't necessarily need the IDs. All right, so this is a status field, and they're going to have different statuses than did the properties. And let's call them active, pending, and disabled. So active vendors are the ones that are still in the pool. Pending, maybe they're in some type of, maybe it's a pre-status or something. Mm-hmm. And of course, disabled being removed.
Okay.
Okay. We've got the name and the type. So this one was, so type we also want to be a drop down.
Right.
All right, so what types do we want to have? Let's do appliance.
HVAC.
HVAC. Roofers. Pool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to pop those in different orders. So I'll do that later. So appliance repairs, HVAC, pool, roofer. I'm sure there's other ones. We're plumbers, and let's see, painter.
There we go.
So let's save that. And I don't like the let's try and put these in order. So let's go ahead and drag and drop the roofer down to the bottom, and the painter's up, and the plumber's up. There we go.
Nice.
All right, so the date active, that's automatically turned into a date step. So we're going to have to do a date picker on that. Rating, let's give them a drop down here as well. Okay, we're going to make this not a numeric field. Let's make it a single response. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Star rating. Okay, all that through. Good to go. Territory and notes, that should be golden. All right. And we'll say this initial. All right. So now we've got that. Now we jump over here. Now let's go ahead and create the page that shows our vendor list.
So now whenever you select dashboard navigation, is that going to add another tab on the left side there? Is this going to go under properties at that point?
So dashboard navigation is going to be directly accessible, or really it's anywhere in the navigation. If we wanted to have hierarchical, I could choose a page group, which is also on the left, but then we could actually put sub navigation into that.
Gotcha. Kind of like the portal management, how it has that.
You got
drop
it.
down.
It would work exactly like
Okay.
this. Yep. All right. So let's add the ability to create a new vendor. I like blue. We'll go for blue for this button. All right. Again, let's let admins do it. And this is going to be on top of the manage vendor. And we're going to have the ability to update a vendor. Update and restart again. 4948.
As you can see on the tab at the top there.
Yep. And let's get the name and the status and the date active and the rating. That's probably good enough. Let's put the rating first. The rating's important before date.
Came over and says status.
Oh, you're right. Well, type is important too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Name, type, status, rating, date active. All right. Let's save that. And hey, wouldn't you know, our vendor list popped over here. So let's go ahead and create a new vendor now. And let's call this Kyle's Plumbing.
That could be a conflict of interest.
It's no relation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's more people than just you named Kyle.
No.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. Yet to meet one.
And this turned into a date step. So let's say you became active on May 1st. Why not? And in this one, I didn't make it a drop down. I made it a radio button. So we'll make this a radio button for rating. So we'll give you a 5. And we'll put you in, let's see, how about the Phoenix Greater Metro area? Aren't you doing awesome over there?
So nice to me on whenever it's being recorded.
And we've got the Kyle's Plumbing now sits in there, and of course we can go in and we can update them as well. So now all your data is there as well.
Cool.
All right, so now we've got vendors, we've got properties. Now let's talk about actually linking data sets together. This is where things start getting interesting.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll jump over here and let's add a ticket. So somebody calls in, they've got a specific problem with their house. There's a couple different ways to do this. So let's we'll set it up so they call in, they can select it from a drop down of all the properties, so they can identify who called in. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new one. We'll call it let's call it a maintenance ticket. Okay, all the standard fields again. Okay, so we're going to have the tenant name, who called in. We're going to have the property ID. So this is going to be a different type of field. We're actually going to want to link this directly to the property. So every property or data set has what we call a sample ID attached to it. Now with that ID, we're going to actually have the ID of the property is going to go into this field. Okay, and let's also have the vendor it was assigned to, vendor ID. So once it gets assigned out, that's also going to be linked to that specific vendor. Let's see what is the problem. So we'll call it short description, and let's just give them some area there. Let's say long description, or let's do notes. That way we can add more and more to it. All right, so we'll make that text field, and let's have date submitted. And let's make that a date time, because people can call in. We got to make sure we're hitting tickets in a timely manner. Let's see. Status. We already have a status. We'll probably have a type. And let's do a vendor status. Okay, so now we've got a bunch of fields. So the tenant name is going to hold in who called in. Property ID is going to link to our property. Vendor ID is going to link to the vendor we've assigned it to. A short description of what the problem is, what the initial complaint was. Some notes. The data was submitted, obviously. The type of maintenance it is.
Okay. And
we have vendor status as well, so they'll need to call and accept it and all that kind of fun stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and let's see resolution date as well.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to add those in. All right, turn to single response, drop down, quick add. Okay, so we'll probably have tickets that are new, tickets that are pending, assigned, closed. That sound good?
Yep.
All right, good enough for today. New, pending, assigned, and closed. Okay. Tenant name, we don't have the tenant data set, so that's just going to be a free-form field.
Now, while you're going through adding these different drop downs that we've been seeing through this process, what if you forget one or you need to change it down the road?
If you want to add something to it?
If you want to add something.
Sure. So let's say we want to change the status. So let's go ahead and edit the status. And I've got the options. I've got my options here. So I can just hit the plus sign.
Okay, so you're not locked in at that point of you can no longer change it once it goes into the live.
Exactly. And that's where the ability to version things comes in as well. You actually save your versions and roll back and all that kind of fun stuff as well. So I went ahead and added the remove status in here as well, just for fun. Okay, property ID and vendor ID. So these are going to be ID fields. So in order for it to be an ID field, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to do something special for this one, because we want this to actually come from a different data set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my portal management and I'm going to create a segment. And I want to create a segment on top of my properties. I'm just going to call that get all properties. And I'm going to have this return a data set sample. I'm going to save that. And we probably, this is for tickets, so this is only going to be for occupied properties. So let's go ahead and put a status on here. So status equals occupied. I believe that's what we had, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if the status is occupied, I want to be returning everything. And just like the workflows, we can save versions of this as well. Okay, so now I've got segment 10,066 here. Okay, and that's going to return all the properties we have with the status of occupied. We should probably order it. Let's order this by name. So I'm going to go ahead and save that as well. Order change. Okay, so we've got 10,066. So what I can go over here, I can go to my property ID question. I'm going to change the step type to text and display type to target values. So what this lets me do is I can actually pull information from a segment. So I'm going to call sample segment. And that's going to automatically populate that data through. Okay. And I've got the same type of thing I want to do for vendors as well. This is going to be returning sample. Get vendors. Return by name. All right, let's go ahead and save that. And I think we had active vendors, is that right?
Correct. Okay,
so let's get only active vendors here. Status is active. And we're going to add that. Let's save this version. And surprise, surprise, this is 10,067. So we'll go back over here. Now we've got the property IDs and vendor IDs. So let's do the same thing for vendors. We're going to change that to a text type because it does know automatically what's coming back. We'll change it to target values. And we're going to say sample segment dot 67. Now there's some other things we're going to be doing here as well, which is a little bit more advanced. But as you can see, so there's a lot of information that comes back if we're returning the entire data set. So we're going to want to go back in here and actually make an adjustment because we don't want to display the raw. So you could have that display just return column information or maybe the sample ID and whatnot. But this is actually returning the entire data set, but we don't want the full drop down to show up with everything.
Okay.
So we're going to put a tag in here. And we're going to call it display equals, and we're going to say we want to display the name of this vendor. I'm going to go ahead and copy that because we're going to want to do the same thing for the property. We're going to want to do the same thing for the vendor. So we'll go ahead and put that in there. And I'm going to do the same thing for vendor. Because we only want the vendor's name to show up in the dropdown, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and short description, note, date submitted. Let's make this note a WYSIWYG so we can have a little bit more freedom in what we're highlighting. Date submitted. Type is going to be a drop down as well. I can't remember what we use, so let's go ahead and open up what our vendor types were. And we can also click here, see what the options were. We have appliance repairs, HVAC, painters, plumbers, pool, and roofers. Okay. All right. So appliance repairs. Did you capture all those? HVAC,
painters, pool, plumbers first if you were going ABC order still.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but we'll go ahead and do that just because of anal.
And roofers.
All right.
Thought I wasn't paying attention, huh?
I tried to get you on that one.
I thought I wasn't. I just lucked out.
And vendor status is also going to be a drop down because we either have a vendor attached to it or not. So we'll go ahead and make that a single response as well. Drop down, pending, assigned, completed, and resolution date will also be a date field. So let's go ahead and publish this workflow. Okay, so now I'm back over here. Let's back over to our pages, and let's have our open maintenance requests. And this one's also going to be dashboard navigation. Let's make it live. And let's have a new maintenance request. Well, let's go for green this time. So let's do the tenant name, the status, let's see the description of the problem, and let's see vendor status. There we go. So we'll do that. Let's do the date submitted as well. Probably sort by the date submitted and the resolution date. We'll probably have a different one for resolution or resolved ones. So we'll do that. So now we've got our maintenance requests. Let's go ahead and add a new request. So now I've got our status of new. We'll say, I think Kyle was the tenant. And we're going to say it was linked in. So we remember who we did that target segment. So there's Kyle's mansion got brought in.
So that will pull down that property ID. Every property that you have listed on this property management company. But
yep.
What if you have hundreds of properties? Do you want to have all those drop down, or is there a way to kind of slice that up?
So yeah, so we just, if you recall, when we built that segment, we just said give us all of them. Okay. We can also pass in parameters, and I'll show you how to pass in parameters here in a few minutes, where we can actually limit to see what comes back.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's say this is a new request that we don't have a vendor assigned to it, and let's say Kyle's pool is green. So nice and simple. Date submitted automatically defaults to right now by clicking in there. So we'll say that this got submitted today, and this needs a type of pool. Vendor status is obviously none of that has changed, and now we've got Kyle's new ticket is in the system. Okay, so let's do this as the new requests, and let's actually turn this into that group like we talked about. So let's go ahead and create a whole section for maintenance requests. We'll call it property maintenance. It'll be a page group. It'll be live. Don't need to worry about page contents. You do need to worry about user types. Don't need to worry about this information. So we'll go ahead and save that. Now we've got property maintenance. You see it's got a little caret, but we haven't moved the maintenance requests in here. So I'm going to go in. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. We'll go back over to pages, and we've got our maintenance request. We can edit maintenance requests, and let's just put the new requests. So we got the new request. It's going to be dashboard navigation, and we're going to move it into, now this page group is not top level. We're going to put this in property maintenance. And now we're going to actually try out this list parameter. So we're going to want to filter this by status equals new. Okay, does that make sense?
Perfect.
All right, so let's save this version. New requests. All right, so now we've got this page in here. Now we've got new requests, and it should be filtering out just new requests. Let's go ahead and create another page, just because we know we're going to need it, for active requests. Or what was it we used?
Pending.
Pending, assigned. So let's have assigned. Let's have assigned requests. So when we sign it out to a specific person, we can assign it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I don't want to start from scratch. Let's go ahead and just duplicate this page. And now I've got new requests. We're going to call this assigned requests. Don't need that. Under property maintenance, we actually don't need a new request button. So let's just clean that out. And status equals assigned. Okay, we can do all the same information here. Let's go ahead and save that.
So you're really starting to kind of roll here as you put those data sets together. Now you're starting to add the different functionality on top of it. So
you got it.
It really took the first, we're probably about 40 minutes into building as we speak right now. And the first 20 minutes was setting out that data sets, but now it's really starting to take form on being able to add the functionality like we see right here of being able to set up new requests and then take them through the process.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool to see it start from the ground up.
Yeah, so yeah, just about half hour or so ago, we went ahead and it's basically from nothing. Now we've got properties, we've got vendors, we've got tickets and maintenance requests and whatnot. Oh, looks like I forgot to put the update on there. So let's go back in here and go back over to pages. And this is the new request page. Equals restart. Oh, I forgot a space. So here we go. We'll put a space in there. Fixed. Bug. Our first webinar bug. There we go. All right, here we go. Back over here. Back over to new requests. Now let's go ahead. Let's move this through the process. So let's take this request. We're going to update it, and we're going to assign it to Kyle's Plumbing, which is the only vendor we put in there. I guess we should have put a plumbing vendor in here, but
no, I'll take care of it.
All right, maybe we should. Why not?
The plumber is just as good as the pool guy, apparently.
And what we're going to do as well, we're actually going to have some of this stuff change around. So if we change it to assigned, we can actually make things show and hide and disappear and all that kind of fun.
Cool.
All that kind of fun stuff. But we'll go ahead and just manually change it to assigned for today or for right now. And now we've got the new still status. Okay, let's figure out what happened here.
Vendor status is assigned.
Oh.
Now it's assigned.
Now it's assigned. There we go. Okay, so now it's disappeared from there. We click into assigned requests, and boom, now it shows up in here. So that kind of shows how you can manage the workflow between your company. So you've got one company, one individual who's maybe answering the phones, taking the tickets in, and then it would drop into another department for scheduling with vendors and handling it from that side.
Nice.
So now we've got this assigned ticket over to to Kyle's Plumbing. So now we've got this a ticket, and let's see if we can. We've also got this tied to the property. So let's add a page that we can actually see what tickets have been opened up on which properties.
Okay.
Okay. So before we do that, let's go ahead and add in a second property just for fun. So we'll call this Simon's property, Simon's house. I don't have a mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someday. And Kyle's the owner of this one. 123. Let's call this 123.
I don't want to be neighbors.
In your dreams.
Yeah.
Ave. I love you, Kyle. Don't worry. I'm just kidding. We're just playing around. Yeah, we're over in Mesa as well. And Simon, of course, is in there. And he's great.
He's okay.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've got two properties in the system. We've got Kyle's property, and we've got Kyle's mansion, or Simon's house and Kyle's mansion. So now what I want to do is let's see if we can see the open tickets or the ticket history for the specific property. So let's go back over to pages, and we're going to add a new page, and it's going to be property. Let's call it maintenance record. And this is going to be an internal page. So we're actually going to get to this from the other data sets. We're going to enable this an internal page.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's not going to show up on that left side.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And this is also going to be a different type of page as well. So we just had list pages so far. We're going to make this a combo page because we're going to want to display information about the property as well as tickets that are associated with the property.
Oh.
So the main data set is going to be the property, and we're going to want to combo that off tickets. So what we can do here is let's go ahead and see for the tickets. We know what the tenant name was on the ticket. Let's have the short description, see what the problem was. Let's get the status, and let's get the vendor status, and let's get the resolution date. Of course, we don't have any of those yet because we're too slow. And let's get the date submitted. We'll put that up here up front. And combo parameters. So just like remember how we filtered on new or assigned for the tickets. So instead of filtering on new or assigned, we're going to say we only want to see tickets that are tied to this specific property. So we're going to say property ID equals sample.sample ID. So what that is saying is that the property ID from the tickets, so the property ID here, we're going to want to limit it to the sample ID, which is the record ID of the property. So it's a little bit more complex, but once you start getting the flow of it, it starts to make more sense.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go ahead and save this one. So now I've got my maintenance records, which is page 3451, and I want to be able to get this from my properties. So if I go over and I edit this page, and I've got one action for update. Let's have an update. Let's have an action for maintenance. Maintenance history equals, and we're going to view a record this time, and that was 34. What was it?
35. Blanking on it. I stopped paying attention about 30 minutes ago.
All right, let's say it's 3458. I don't know. We'll make a guess. So we'll go ahead and save that. Actually, yeah. Added view. All right. 51.
Close.
utter fail. 51. Okay, so now I got to go and change that. So that's fine. 3451. Resave. Okay. So now I've got that linked over. So now if we go back over to the properties, we've got Kyle's mansion, and we can see what's the maintenance history. And we see that we have the maintenance histories. We have Kyle's. We have Kyle's pool is green. So there's our ticket. We know it's assigned. and we're ready to go from that perspective. So now we've gone through properties, we've gone through vendors, we've gone through maintenance requests, and we've gone through maintenance records.
Wow. So yeah, 45 minutes or so into this thing, you've got a functional system here that is really starting to kind of take shape. I imagine down the road for this client, once we have this stood up, they're probably going to be looking to kind of see the historical issues that they've had with houses, and if it's about to come up to either go back up for rent, to know what they should probably take care of ahead of time before they get a renter in there possibly. Does it need to be repainted?
Yeah, maintenance history with dates, what was the resolution status? So yeah, so there's obviously some more things, probably another hour or so putting it in. We can tie those knots, and maybe we'll do another second webinar on how that works, but don't want to take up too much of folks' times today. But hopefully we've gone through how quickly we can start building systems.
Yeah,
it really is phenomenal.
This is awesome to kind of show from a blank canvas to being able to actually go and see some functionality. So I really appreciate you taking the time for letting me come in and bring my camera with and kind of show people what you do over here. Everybody kind of looks through your window and it looks like you're working sometimes. Clearly
rarely ever am I working, actually.
No, but yeah, I'm excited to kind of show the next steps of this down the road, but I really think that was a powerful demo to show how we can get this going.
Awesome. That was fun.
How simple it can be. Doesn't have to be hard, people.